entrepreneurs, business owners, professionals who seek excellence, bringing the business classroom to you. It's the Business Builders Show. Here's Marty Wolf.
We still got a long way to go. Yes, we all got a long way to go.
Welcome to the Business Builders Show with Marty Wolf, the show for entrepreneurs, business owners, and business leaders. I'm Marty Wolf, your host for the Business Builders Show, and along with my executive producer, DC Taylor, we will be your guides on this learning journey. Let me tell you my super objective in being with you today. I want to enthusiastically share stories and information to inspire leaders, that's you, by the way, so you can inspire others. I have a very special, unique, I think a unique story to tell. My guest is Chris Duffey. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm looking forward to this. We're going to talk about Chris Duffey's book, which is titled Superhuman Innovation, Transforming Business with Artificial Intelligence. Transforming Business with Artificial Intelligence. Now, don't hang up or don't turn off the dial here. You'll understand what Chris is talking about, I promise you. So let me introduce him formally. Chris Duffey spearheads Adobe's Creative Cloud Strategic Development Innovation Partnerships across the creative enterprise space. Chris Duffey's keynotes, which have received more than 50 million impressions, have been reported around the world by Access Hollywood, Extra, and many other media outlets. So, Chris Duffey, again, welcome to the show. So, superhuman innovation, transforming business with artificial intelligence. Tell me about your co-author on this book.
Yeah, we like to call the co-author Amy, which stands for metaphorically AI plus me. And I think that's kind of the foundational premise of the book, is to showcase how AI can be your intelligent assistant. So compiled a tapestry of different AI APIs to leverage the system to help write the book. With one caveat, I think we tend to use, for lack of a better word, sometimes words that tend to personify AI. And in reality, it's a system. It will always be a system. But to contextualize it, we give it a name. And in this case, it's called Amy. So, to better understand Amy and the huge opportunities surrounding artificial intelligence, we have to go back maybe about 30 years ago. And, every 10 to 15 years, humanity creates and is given a new technology. Maybe 30 years ago, roughly around then, we had the desktop publishing revolution, where we had this ability to create great content at speed like never before. Out of that, fast forward maybe 10 to 15 years, we had the mobile revolution, where we now had the ability to access all of this great content. Out of that came this digital exhaust, where we needed to house a lot of that excess data, and that thus gave rise to the cloud revolution. Out of the cloud revolution brings the AI revolution, and that's where we are today. We now have this surplus of data that we can extract insights to create better experiences, what I like to call superhuman experiences, where technology will make us even more human.
Let's bring it down to earth even more. So
Yes.
Give me an example of artificial intelligence. For instance, I'm on Amazon. What would be an example of artificial intelligence if I'm on Amazon trying to order a book, or my experience with them?
Yep. Even Amazon, Netflix, suggestive, predictive applications of what a product might be of use to the end user based off of previous or historical knowledge. So, kind of that algorithm or that graph that understands previous user behavior to make suggestions. And I think that, again, ladders back to herein lies the huge, immense opportunity for data, but more specifically AI, to do pattern recognition, in this case, suggestive and predictive kind kind of application in terms of product and search.
Chris, I think it's more prevalent than people really realize.
It really is.
They're not calling it AI. They just don't know what it is. Am I right or am I wrong? What do you think?
Completely spot on. There's a joke in the AI community. It's only AI until it's something. The hope for AI is for it to be ambient and omnipresent, and just infused into our lives. Like to reference AI maybe in three ways. One, conceptually; second, technically; and third, strategically. And this is the basis for the book. Conceptually, ultimately, AI is not a technology. It's an intelligent assistant. And what we mean by that is it's here to amplify human ability. There's a lot of talk in the press, in the news, headlines that AI is the robots are coming to take over the world. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then B, something to consider. But I think it hasn't been kind of the whole story hasn't been conveyed on this aspect where AIs are taking away jobs. To that first aspect, the robots are coming for world domination. That is, I think, goes to the power of storytelling, specifically Hollywood, where they've created this painting, this aspect of AI where it's this super intelligence, and that's kind of this highest level of AI where it is of such superior intelligence that we can't even understand what it's thinking or doing. There's much debate if that is even achievable, and how many generations far out is that. Coming down one layer from that is general intelligence, where the system is of equal intelligence of the human intelligence. Counterpoints to that is, we've been working on AI since the mid-50s on a technical level. We still can't, on a biological level, fully describe what's happening in our minds, let alone consciousness, let alone biology and emotion. So it's a huge endeavor to try to recreate human intelligence. Where we are currently is narrow AI, and that's to your point, where it is very present in modern day. It's directed at specific tasks. The one we just talked about was kind of predictive and suggestive, and that's where it's going to amplify the human experience, in this case, under that umbrella of the intelligent assistant.
Interesting. So I have my note here. It says, I guess I'll turn this into a question, so allow me a second. So I write, tell me more about the digital transformation, in quotes I have, from messaging to experiences. Yep. You've kind of been sharing that with us, but go a little deeper in that whole thought process.
I think a very important point. Over these last 30 years or so, and specifically with the rise of mobile, it's given brands, businesses, consumers, and ultimately humanity the ability to not only historically kind of have a monologue, but now have a dialogue, this ongoing relationship in the context of business with the consumer. And so, the advertising world is greatly evolving because of this into now creating experiences. And what we mean by experiences is adding true value across the entirety of the customer journey. Back in the day, we had maybe 3 or 4 media channels, TV, print, radio, outdoor, and now we literally have hundreds of opportunities to interact on a daily basis. So the challenge now is not only to orchestrate all of these kind of micro moments, but to have a more intelligent interaction with the customer throughout the entire journey. Yeah. And when we talk about customer, I like to even frame it as the human, the human, right? Both. It seems obvious, but when you put it in that perspective, the customer still frames that relationship into a dynamic of trying to sell something quite often. And when you frame it as a human, it changes that dynamic or the dimension into having a valuable relationship. And, when you have a valuable kind of dual relationship, it truly affects, and we can see it on the bottom line with businesses that do that.
Yeah, actually, I wrote down in my notes as the theme is call it humanity, humans, and innovation, and I'm oversimplifying it. But I'm going to go back to the point that I spent time in the outdoor advertising business, and I still do some consulting work in the outdoor advertising business. Page 24, I found it fascinating. I've shared it with others, and it kind of explains what you just explained about, we used to have outdoor and just terrestrial radio stations. Now we have all these experiences. On page 24, it says, take, for instance, outdoor advertising placed on skyscrapers and buildings in large cities, such as Los Angeles and New York. They are becoming smart in that the messages and images are not only programmed remotely, but they even change from minute to minute based on visual or auditory cues in the environment. Holy smoly. Wow. Now, Amy said that, and that was one of her uses of technology. Blew me away, Chris. Blew me away.
It gets a bit meta when AI is talking about AI. But it really, I think, is quite exciting.
It is.
In the terms that we're seeing a lot in the IoT realm of the Internet of Things, where these devices are now connecting in these broader ecosystems to, again, allow for more intelligent experiences. In that case of intelligent outdoor mediums, it really is. We talk a lot about in the book, the only limitation to AI is human imagination now. So some quite exciting things happening in terms of a connected outdoor medium placement where it can be either reactive to the environment or suggestive to the environment. So I think, again, it builds upon the opportunity to create deeper and more immense immersive experiences for the consumer and humanity.
My guest is Chris Duffey. His last name is spelled Duffey. The book we're speaking about is Superhuman Innovation, Transforming Business with Artificial Intelligence. Chris, how do you want people to connect with you or follow you? What would you suggest?
I've been going deep on Instagram recently. I really enjoying kind of the visual format. So at Superhuman Innovation on Instagram.
Great. Terrific. And that'll be really you responding, won't it?
Yes.
Okay.
there are some
I threw in a trick question, DC, huh? I threw a trick question there. See if he's paying attention.
All right.
All right, All right. So I'm going to go out of order of my own questions because I'm sitting here thinking, and as I'm reading the book, I'm thinking, where the hell does a small business start? Maybe that's too fundamental a question, but help me out, Chris. Where do we start? How do we may be at different levels, but give me a little feedback on that question.
I think this is the most exciting times for not only large global enterprises, but also the smaller businesses, because it truly is an equal playing field with technologies like AI. Mm-hmm. So AI, 2019 is being called the year that AI is for all. The APIs are there. It's embedded into a number of products. And so now you can access these abilities to amplify your objective. So I think that the foundational point goes to understanding the current cultural landscape. And essentially that boils down to, with so much change, the only thing we can accurately predict over the next 5 years or so is the rate of change is only going to be faster. So what do you do with that? Is you kind of focus in on human level critical thinking, and you can then amplify human level critical thinking, creative thinking with intelligent tools like AI. So once you kind of have that foundational understanding, you then go into infrastructure and data aspects. The first part, infrastructure, and I think this is where some of the smaller businesses may have a leg up on some of the larger enterprises, in the sense that they may not have as much historical infrastructure to evolve to. So I think that's kind of exciting things, and we're seeing a lot of these online e-com businesses do really well because of that aspect. Once you get kind of your infrastructure, hardware, software in place, you then can go into the data aspect. And what we mean by that is you have to de-silo your data, get it so it's accessible. You have to scrub it so it's clean. And then we can then start talking about how we can unlock the insights from data with AI. And we break that down into 3 levels: conceptually, technically, and strategically. Conceptually, we chatted a little bit earlier about at the end of the day, AI is a tool to help amplify our abilities, that intelligent assistant. Technically, this is where there's some need for change management aspects. There's a need to incorporate and talk about how AI is going to be infused organizationally and operationally. And then strategically, once you have all that in place, then we have a framework, what we call the super framework, based off of speed, understanding, performance, experimentation, and results. And I think that's kind of the core premise. Once you get all of that groundwork ready, then you can focus on how to strategically leverage AI for speed, understanding, performance, experimentation, and results.
And that is your AI framework that you mentioned in the book: speed, understanding, performance, experimentation, and results. And another thing you said that I want to make sure that I'm accurate is that focus on maybe one thing, like inventory management. I see as a big need in a lot of small to mid-sized companies. I think that's a good place for a lot of companies to start. That's just kind of my side note, Chris.
I completely agree. Go for a quick win. Either go with an unused data set that you have access to and you can start to experiment, or go off of kind of a current strategic high priority objective that you can create a small SWAT team to go in and apply AI and see what you can achieve with that, get some quick wins, and then go for a broader rollout and implementation of AI.
I'm going to be blunt like I am sometimes, in the sense that agree or disagree that for I'm focusing on small to mid-sized businesses, and small business can be pretty big businesses, 500 employees or more, as you well know. If you don't start paying attention, you will be at a distinct competitive loss. You will fall behind with the customer experience, inventory management, meaning your cash flow, all those kinds of things. So that's my sidebar comment. You probably agree.
Completely agree. Some new stats out there. By 2025, I believe, $1.2 trillion will be taken away from businesses that aren't using AI. So I think that's quite a motivator.
That's blunt. Yeah. So, wow. So you talk a lot about security. I'm off my notes now. I'm really off my notes. I'm not even paying attention. I'm just going on my memory of the book. Security is really an important issue here. Let's talk about that. Actually, I watched a 60 Minutes thing last night and talked about ransomware. That's not necessarily connected to AI, but your security is really an important part of this, is it not, Chris?
Without a doubt. And security both from an internal aspect, from a business aspect, but equally important of kind of having an ethical approach to using your customers' data as well. Quite often, some of the biggest security breaches has not been around the technology, but around the human element as well. So
good point.
That's a good point. That's a big consideration. But security, without a doubt, is a major. It needs to be a major pillar of your approach to leveraging and using AI, and then equally privacy and an ethical approach to using AI as well. And I think we're seeing a lot of guidance coming out of the GDP guidance out of Europe, and so I think we just need to continue to have those broader discussions around regulation, but also some self-governance as well.
Yeah, be vigilant. And as I may have talked over you, I want to make sure that point gets through that actually some of the breaches and some of the security issues are started with human beings and answering the wrong email, going someplace that they shouldn't have gone, et cetera, et cetera. I'm oversimplifying it, but it's often the human who kind of starts the issues, I guess.
Yeah, intentionally or not intentionally. And there again, that's where AI can play a role. AI can kind of be an assistant in the sense that it can identify whether these behaviors are, again, intentionally or non-intentional, and if they fall within or without or outside of guidance based off of kind of a rule system. So it can flag something that feels a bit suspicious or feels that it's starting to gravitate outside of the security boundaries.
My guest has been Chris Duffey, Duffey. His book is Superhuman Innovation, Transforming Business with Artificial Intelligence. And I'll give a shout out to Amy. She did a nice job on being your digital assistant. Before we wrap up, Chris, there's way too much for us to cover in a 20 or 30 minute conversation. But is there something you want to make sure that we hear before we end the conversation?
Thanks. Yeah, if there's one thing I urge your listeners, the audience out there, to think of AI as the intelligent assistant. It really is here to amplify human ability. It's going to make us even more human on every aspect, from an employee, from a business, from a consumer aspect. It's quite exciting. It's accessible. Urge you to just get out there and start to experiment. Liken this to the early days of the internet, where some of the biggest winners were the ones who just got out there and started to become not only kind of a theoretical understanding, but a practical user of the technology. So it's quite accessible now. Go after those quick wins or those unused data sets for achieving a business objective.
Tell us one more time the best place you want people to connect with you.
At Superhuman Innovation on Instagram.
Chris Duffey, thank you so much for being part of the Business Builders Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Business Builders Show. To learn more about me, and I'm Marty Wolf, go to MartyWolfBusinessSolutions.com. That's MartyWolfBusinessSolutions.com. To learn more about Kelly Hoey, go to her website, which is jkellyhoey.co. That's jkellyhoey.co. And of course, you can find Kelly and Marty on LinkedIn and Twitter. A reminder, you can find all our Business Builders shows on iTunes, Spotify, and on your favorite podcast app.
Bringing the business classroom to you. It's the Business Builders Show with Marty Wolf.